Week 196, or is it 195? I don't even know, but you're going to have to go to the blog, so maybe you can correct me in the comments. Our Memorian in the house, and Toronto real estate this week for condos popped off. There's like mad sales, almost double week over week in terms of sales activity. Like $18 million more in sales this week or this past week versus a typical condo week since we've been going down this path for however long now. So that's interesting. House sales kind of relatively stable. And a lot of conversations around what's going to happen next year. What's going on with the real estate market? When's it going to, be normal again? And I get asked that question, a lot, by clients and anybody else I'm talking to real estate about. But the other day when I was asked that question, I thought of it in a different way. I asked, rather than just trying to answer the question right away, it's just like when somebody asks me, how's the market? There's not one answer to that question unless you're some sort of basic, uneducated realtor who will always say, hey, it's always a good time to buy or sell, just, self-serving kind of commentary like that. But when you ask me, like, when's the market going to be normal? My question to you is, what do you think is normal? And I think that's really important to discuss with yourself. And just so you know, like, are you working yourself up into a frenzy because you're expecting the market to go back into a place that's just not normal and probably will never happen again? What do you think is normal? So I guess we'll get into that. But before that, like, my name is Ara Memorian. I run the Spring Team here in Toronto, Real Estate Raccoons YouTube channel here. And we have the raccoon as our team mascot because we're scrappy little MFers that always get things done. And this blog started in March of 2020 when we got hit with COVID. So that's what I mean when I say 190, however many weeks I've been doing this now. I'm pretty sure it's 196, but we'll have to check the blog for that. And that is who I am, and that is what we do. And the best way to support me and us is to subscribe, obviously. Find me on Instagram, follow the team, myself on Instagram. You can check out TheSpringTeam.ca/blog for all 196 weeks of this in a row. It's all on there. So back to the question, like, what is normal in real estate? And what's not normal is what's essentially been happening for virtually a decade in Toronto, at least, where it's been an aggressive seller's market in most cases. And that's really not a normal market, but we've been not tricked, but it's just been there for so long that we believe that that is normal in Toronto. So any sort of moving away from an aggressive seller's market is deemed as a problem, down market, bad, whatever. And that's not really the case. And I think that gets a lot of people worked up unnecessarily. And I don't really think that that's healthy, much like comparing what's happening today to the peak of the market back in February, which we hopefully have now all collectively stopped doing because it really is not helpful or productive to understand the context of today. So what we really should be doing is looking at what a normal market is. And in my opinion, a normal market is one that, sometimes buyers have a little bit more time to think about their purchase, and sometimes sellers are doing, better than they expected. But really, it's just having a normal market with enough supply like we have right now, and people buying and selling, at their comfortable pace, with the odd property going into multiple offers, with, some aren't. Like, that's really what balance is. And we've seen little windows of that kind of balance over the past, 10 to 15 years. And now, of course, there was a moment where we swung more into the buyer's favor, and that's not healthy either. Like, we need to have more of a return to a more comfortable market that is, well supplied, but not aggressively supplied. We need to have more certainty around interest rates and whether they're going up or down or whatever. It's obviously a lot easier to make real estate decisions and investment decisions when rates are coming down. Not quite as easy on the way up because that's affecting you in a negative way. So I totally get all that. And hopefully most of us understand that the bulk of all the rate hikes are well behind us right now, and we may not see another one. That's a reality. We may not see another rate hike. I think another rate hike would be incredibly damaging to a lot of people, including myself. I don't know if I could absorb a lot more hiking. Not that I can't, it's just I would prefer not to. I don't think the economy necessarily needs it. I think that the inflation numbers that have come out from the US and Canada prove that we are on a path of recovery. And it's just that timeline of recovery is not in line with what a lot of people expected, including the Bank of Canada, who would hope to be at 2% by now. and obviously adjusted their timeline on that to end of 2024, 2025 kind of thing. But the great thing is there's a lot of, the phone's ringing right now with a lot of buyers who are more certain about their path, who are more certain about their finances, and who are more comfortable making purchases right now, which is really, really great to see. A lot of level-headed people right now are not focused on those people that are losing their shirts, because they do exist in the market. It's important to understand why some of these people are losing their shirts. That whole FOMO mentality, which honestly, I kind of regret some of the things that I was saying when the market was super hot. I really don't think that I had this belief that the market was going to maintain a lot of those super high prices, and I believe that it will. It's just I gave it a more immediate window where I didn't quite layer in the implications of these aggressive rate hikes among the rest of the uncertainty in the market, and probably made too much of a comparison to 2008, where the Toronto real estate market just took a step back, prices relatively held stable, and once the chaos was over, things popped off again. That was just being conditioned as somebody who was brought up in this real estate business, learning in the financial crisis, and then kind of moving on into basically a boom for the next 15 years. I was very lucky. But looking back at that time and looking at it now, it's very obvious to me now, hindsight 2020 and everything, that we're in a place where this place that we're in right now was the inevitable end point of all of the rate hikes and all that other stuff. I'm still really happy that I didn't go down that rabbit hole of like the markets crashing and tanking and stuff. There's a lot of people making super irresponsible and stupid predictions about how real estate is going to be like 40-50% in value at this time, when clearly that's not the case. Of course, there are some properties that are worth a lot less today than they were during the peak, and your favorite online troll loves to highlight those and paint the entire market with some brush as, see, I told you so, market's down 40%. That's not true. It's just not true. The market is way too nuanced for these clickbait discussions to be happening online. And there are no real estate heroes out there that are the only truth tellers. It's just not true. They can think whatever they want, but it's just not real. The reality of today's market was a little bit more predictable than a lot of us thought, but not in that dramatic market crashing Chicken Little kind of way. But it's, I consider this to be right now a relatively normal and more stable market than we felt in a pretty long time. And I think that is due to a little bit more certainty in the air. And I think that is due to a lot more positivity in the news in some cases. I would be way more concerned about transferring a lot of our prized assets in Toronto to the provincial government and leave them in Doug Ford's hands than I am about what's going to happen to the real estate market here. That's a whole other video on its own. But like as of yesterday, because of Toronto's massive deficit we've been running since the ridiculous Rob Ford days, when he basically almost bankrupted our city with his ridiculous decisions, have us in a $1.5 billion deficit right now. And we've been in that deficit, and it's not because of Olivia Chow and anybody else people on the right want to blame. But to get a cash infusion from the provincial government to offload the responsibility of the Gardner Expressway, the Don Valley Parkway, to move over all real estate land use decisions for the Science Center, for the Ontario Place, for what's that place along Bayview, McMillan Art something. There are a lot, the Royal Ontario Museum, the ROM, all of these real estate assets now are in the hands of Doug Ford and his provincial government, who have just come out of this Greenbelt scandal right now. And to me, I think that Greenbelt situation was more of a test to see how the market would react to these ridiculous, shady backdoor deals that clearly happened. I guess allegedly happened, whatever you have to say. But now all of these prized Toronto assets are in the hands of the province, who clearly has shown no respect for anything beyond just developing real estate under the guise of providing affordable housing, which there is no intention there to do on some of these lands, especially the Greenbelt land. But there is a whole evolving story there that I think is way more relevant right now than discussing anything about interest rates and economies and stuff, because I think that is sorting itself out as we move forward. But I'm just worried about the city and all of our assets. going forward to try and close the gap on this deficit that we have. But again, that's a video for another day. And that's all I've got for you today. What are you guys seeing out there? Are you a buyer? Are you a seller? Are you an agent? Let's talk about what you're seeing out there. I'm really curious to, have more of these conversations as we head into the holiday season. I'm pretty pumped about the holiday season. I'm not a religious person. I don't care for religion generally, but Christmas is one of the best things that happens every single year. And I love this time of year. So I'm pretty excited. Make sure you're subscribed right there, following us on Instagram and all the places. We're a quick Google search away to find all those assets. Links to book a strategy call with me to talk about your real estate is down below as well. So yeah, show me some love down there, and let's keep this conversation going en route to 200. Let's go en route to 200 weeks and 1,000 subscribers. Let's rock.